Welcome back to the channel, my friends. Tonight we delve into the chilling world of the unexplained, where shadows whisper and echoes linger long after the music has faded. We're talking about haunted choir rooms, places where beautiful melodies once filled the air, now replaced by something far more sinister. Imagine, if you will, the dust motes dancing in the pale moonlight filtering through stained glass windows, and then you hear it, a whisper, soft and chilling, seeming to emanate from the very walls themselves. Turn down the lights, turn up the volume, and prepare to be terrified. Our first story takes us to a small, rural town, much like any other, home to a quaint, historic church with a haunting secret. For years, locals whispered about the old choir room, a place where hymns were once sung with joy, now said to be inhabited by a spectral choir that refused to remain silent. The story goes that the church's choir director, a stern and demanding man named Mr. Abernathy, met an untimely end in the choir room itself. Some say he suffered a heart attack, collapsing amidst the sheet music and hymnals. Others whisper of a darker fate, of a jealous choir member silencing his tyrannical reign forever. Whatever the truth, Mr. Abernathy's presence seemed to linger. Late at night, long after the last hymn had faded and the church doors were locked, the faint sound of singing could be heard emanating from the choir room. One evening, a group of teenagers, emboldened by youthful curiosity and a healthy dose of skepticism, decided to investigate the rumors. They snuck into the church, their footsteps echoing in the vast emptiness, their hearts pounding with a mixture of fear and excitement. They reached the choir room door, its paint peeling, the handle cold and damp to the touch. One of the teenagers, a boy named Michael, cautiously pushed the door open, the hinges groaning in protest. The room was dark, illuminated only by the sliver of moonlight spilling through the window. Dust motes danced in the air and the musty scent of decay hung heavy. The teenagers fumbled for their flashlights, their beams cutting through the darkness, revealing rows of empty chairs and dusty music stands. Silence. For a moment there was nothing but the sound of their own breathing. Then they heard it. A soft, mournful hum, barely audible at first, growing steadily louder. It seemed to be coming from the far corner of the room where the shadows were deepest. The humming transformed into a wordless melody, a haunting chant that sent shivers down their spines. The teenagers exchanged terrified glances, their bravado crumbling in the face of the unknown. As the spectral choir reached a crescendo, the teenagers could bear it no longer. They turned and ran, their footsteps pounding on the wooden floor, the sound of the ghostly chanting echoing in their ears. They burst out of the church and into the night, gasping for breath, their faces pale with terror. They never returned to the church, forever haunted by the memory of the phantom choir. Our next tale takes us to the Grand St. Cecilia's Cathedral, a towering edifice of stained glass and Gothic architecture, its imposing presence a testament to faith and devotion. But beneath its beauty, a darkness festered, a sorrow that resonated through the years, echoing in the very stones of the cathedral, most prominently in its grand choir loft. The cathedral's choir had once been its crowning glory, their voices soaring heavenward, filling the vast space with ethereal beauty. But tragedy struck when a fire, sparked by a stray candle, swept through the cathedral. The fire claimed the lives of the entire choir, trapped within their loft, their final moments filled with terror and despair. In the aftermath of the fire, the cathedral was painstakingly rebuilt, each stone carefully replaced, each stained glass window recreated in its former glory. Yet the memory of the tragedy lingered, a palpable sadness that permeated the very air. It began subtly. Visitors claimed to hear whispers, soft and mournful, echoing through the empty halls. Others spoke of a chilling cold that descended upon them as they passed the choir loft, a coldness that seeped into their bones. Then the music began. A lone piano, its keys depressed by unseen fingers, would play in the dead of night. The melodies were always the same, mournful hymns and sorrowful laments, each note imbued with a profound sadness that chilled the soul. One evening, a young music student named Emily, drawn to the cathedral's haunting beauty, decided to stay late, hoping to capture the spectral music with her recorder. She sat alone in the darkened cathedral, the only light emanating from a single lamp illuminating her music sheets. Hours passed, filled only with the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall. Just as Emily was about to give up, she heard it. A soft, mournful sigh, followed by the distinct sound of piano keys being pressed. Emily fumbled for her recorder, her heart pounding in her chest. She pointed the microphone towards the choir loft, her finger trembling on the record button. The music swelled, filling the cathedral with its sorrowful melody. As she listened, Emily felt a cold hand grip her shoulder, its touch icy and inescapable. She turned, her breath catching in her throat. Standing behind her was a young woman, her face pale and translucent, her eyes filled with a profound sadness. The woman opened her mouth as if to speak, but no sound emerged. Instead, the music intensified, the piano chords crashing down like thunder. Emily watched in terror as the ghostly figure reached out, her hand passing through the air where Emily's heart pounded in her chest. The music reached a deafening crescendo, and then silence. Emily was alone. The spectral figure had vanished, leaving behind only the faint scent of smoke and the echo of her sorrowful lament. Chapter 3. The Final Whisper. Our final tale takes us to a secluded abbey, nestled high in the mist-shrouded mountains, a place of quiet contemplation and spiritual retreat. But even within these sacred grounds, a darkness lingered, an unsettling presence that whispered from the shadows, emanating from the abbey's ancient choir room. The abbey had a long and storied past, its walls having witnessed centuries of prayer and devotion. But it was also a place of secrets, of whispered confessions and long-forgotten sins. One such secret buried deep within the abbey's archives was the story of Brother Thomas, the choir master whose obsession with perfection drove him to madness. Brother Thomas demanded nothing short of angelic voices from his choir, pushing them to their limits and beyond. He believed their voices were a conduit to the divine, and any imperfection was an affront to God himself. One fateful evening, during a particularly demanding rehearsal, Brother Thomas snapped. He lashed out at the young choir boys, his voice filled with rage and despair. Driven to the brink, Brother Thomas took his own life within the choir room, his final breath a gasp of despair that seemed to seep into the very walls. From that day forward, the choir room was forever changed. The monks whispered of strange occurrences, of disembodied whispers and chilling draughts that seemed to emanate from the corner where Brother Thomas had breathed his last. The choir room, once a place of heavenly melodies, now resonated with an unsettling silence, broken only by the occasional chilling whisper. Years turned into decades, and the abbey fell into disrepair. The once vibrant community dwindled, leaving only a handful of aging monks to tend to its crumbling walls. It was then that Father Michael, a young and devout priest, arrived at the abbey, seeking solace and spiritual guidance. Father Michael was a man of unwavering faith, unfazed by the abbey's eerie atmosphere and unsettling history. He saw it as his duty to restore the abbey to its former glory, to cleanse it of its darkness and reclaim its sanctity. He began with the choir room, determined to transform it from a place of fear and silence into a space of worship and song once more. He spent his days cleaning and repairing, his nights praying for guidance and peace. One evening, as Father Michael knelt in prayer, he felt a cold hand on his shoulder. He turned, his heart pounding in his chest, expecting to see one of the elderly monks, but there was no one there. He rose to his feet, his senses on high alert. The air grew heavy, the silence pressing in on him like a physical weight. Then he heard it, a whisper, soft and chilling, seeming to come from the very walls themselves. "Perfection," the voice hissed, its tone laced with Brother Thomas's familiar madness. "Your voice, it will be perfect." Father Michael stumbled back, his breath catching in his throat. He knew then that the abbey's darkness was not easily banished. He was not alone. Days turned into weeks, and the whispers grew stronger, more insistent. Father Michael found himself drawn to the choir room, compelled by a force he couldn't explain. Thank you for joining us tonight, my friends, as we explored the chilling tales of haunted choir rooms where whispers linger in the shadows and melodies of the past echo with unsettling clarity. If you found yourself captivated by these tales of terror, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more explorations into the darkest corners of the unknown. And remember, If you ever find yourself in the presence of an unexplained whisper, listen closely but be careful, for you never know what secrets may be revealed in the darkness. Until next time, sleep tight, and may your dreams be undisturbed by the echoes of the past.